Okay, so we're officially going to get started. Welcome everyone to our A/B testing webinar. My name is Ed. I'm a customer marketing strategist here at Unbounce. I will be your host, moderator / interviewer for the day. With me is Alex Nazarevich, our VP of Growth Marketing here at Unbounce. Alex will be sharing a ton of insight from his own A/B testing experience throughout his career. I have a brief agenda before we get started. We're going to talk about why landing page A/B testing matters, the signals that alert us as marketers that this is a valuable tool in our work. Most of our session will be discussing A/B testing best practices. Alex and I have prepared this as an interview, and we'll cover a lot of the big philosophical questions about A/B testing. And we'll also get into specific tips that you can implement today and start using those in your practice. We'll also feature the success story of going.com. They've been using Unbounce for a little while and have seen some awesome results from their experimentation. So I thought that would be cool to highlight today. And lastly, we have a question and answer section to cover some of the awesome questions that you all submitted when you registered. We had over 250 questions submitted. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to every one of those, but we've tried to cover a lot of them in the content we're sharing today. And I'm also going to share some other resources that you can look into after the session if you still have unanswered questions. Okay, to kick us off, why does A/B testing matter? And why does it matter specifically when we're talking about it as marketers? To start, it's key to staying competitive. From one survey, I found 93% of organizations are using or planning to use A/B testing for conversion rate optimization. Simply put, we're at risk of falling behind without A/B testing playing a role in our work. With that in mind, there can be massive benefits to our bottom line. It's super important in 2024 when we have limited resources as marketers and we're measuring the ROI of everything that we do. For example, really strong e-commerce A/B tests can increase average transaction value by up to 50%. So imagine what is possible when you're able to test across different metrics and different style of campaigns and how that can improve our overall effectiveness as marketers. And lastly, experimentation helps us boost our customer empathy. It helps us develop a deeper understanding of our customer's journey by specifically testing different touch points along their path to conversion. So, shifting to the tips and tricks to help you drive better results with your experimentation, I want to briefly introduce our CRO expert today, Alex. Alex has over 12 years of experience in digital marketing. He's cut his teeth by experimenting with one of Canada's top 5 websites in terms of traffic. Over his career, he's routed hundreds of thousands, probably millions if we're being honest about it, routed hundreds of thousands of leads through A/B tests. And one experiment he was particularly proud of was a new merchandising strategy that led to an additional $10,000 in sales every week. So that's a quick primer for Alex overall. Alex, welcome. And thank you so much for joining us for this session, just to chat about your experience.
Thanks, Ed. What a great intro.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, we're going to start off with a super easy question, Alex. But we've seen the evidence for why A/B testing is incredibly valuable for marketers when it comes to their landing pages specifically. So to start off, from your perspective, why do you think so many marketers still avoid A/B testing? Why does that percentage of marketers that say, well, I'm planning to use it, they end up circling the same New Year's resolution year after year?
Yep. I think it comes down to 3 main things. I know for me, it's been a bit of all 3 at different points. So the first one is sometimes I think we feel we can't afford to, right? Like our marketing funnel is working, we're getting pretty good results. Do we want to throw all that away by maybe testing something that could potentially yield negative results? I think the second thing is really around like we don't have the time. And some of that could be, do you really have time to be setting up 2 variants of your landing page, testing different elements, coming up with the different pieces of what you want to test? And some of that could also even be as simple as, I want to get started, I just don't have the time to sit down and organize my thoughts about where. And then the third thing is dealing with other people's opinions. As marketers, I think that, we're used to working in the spotlight. All of our work is on display for everyone, super publicly. So anyone across your organization, your family, friends can have opinions. And sometimes it can be hard to say no if those opinions are coming from your CEO or maybe your VP of growth marketing. So I would say that those are basically the big 3. And as I said, I've faced down all 3 throughout my career. In a previous role, I was vice president of growth at a menswear company. And it was the middle of the pandemic. We were really trying to boost our growth as we were trying to sell formal wear at a time when people were wearing pajamas to work. And so I was trying to get my team excited and comfortable of like, we've got to swing bigger. We've got to make some bets essentially and like try some new things as far as our marketing goes. And all three of these themes came up. We felt like we couldn't afford it. We didn't feel like we could afford to make any mistakes because we were starting to get some positive traction, right? And then the second thing, we didn't have time. Again, we're marketers. We're doing everything all at once. I think that adding one more thing to our plate felt overwhelming and kind of cumbersome when we felt like we were already doing a lot of high value work. And then the third thing was, especially in fashion retail, everyone's got an opinion. Image is everything. Yeah. And we were wary of testing anything that was too far outside the norm or potentially making a mistake.
Yeah. When you have those really strong brand principles, those can be hard to step away from and move on from, or try something new, or even just alter in some small way.
Exactly. Right? But the thing was, like, we couldn't afford not to. Like, once we started testing, we were able to get our paid media funnel really efficient. We were able to increase the conversion rate from, leads to paying customers. And if we hadn't done that, we would have still been wallowing through some of those fears. And essentially, I think we probably said this when we were advertising the webinar, A/B testing, when done right, is making your life easier. Like, you're actually doing yourself a favor as a marketer. It's a bit of investment up front, but it doesn't have to be scary, expensive, hard to do. It can be easy, and it will make your life easier going forward.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a really strong practice. It gives us a lot more insight into our customers and into our metrics and all of those pieces tied to it. So Alex, I wanted to ask you one specific blocker that I think a lot of people run into are some of those, like, I just need to get started on A/B testing. Where do I start with a variant? That sort of thing. Can you talk about, like, in an age where marketers are flooded with different AI tools, different promotions about how much productivity they can save, that sort of thing. Can you talk about some AI tools related to A/B testing that you found a lot of benefit from, and a little bit more about your experience with them?
For sure. I would say, in the past 12 months, it's become easier than ever to find AI tools to make your job go, to make your job easy, to make this process go really quickly. So I use some standalone AI tools, and then you should also be looking at whatever you're using for A/B testing or building your landing pages. You should be looking for AI-powered tools in that program, because that's pretty common now too. And kind of a game changer. So let's talk about external tools first. So I'm a big ChatGPT user. I'm sure a lot of you are too. And there's nothing more daunting for me than staring down a blank page. So how do you come up with content to populate your landing page with? Let's go back to the menswear company I worked at. Let's say that it's wedding season. I'm running a marketing campaign for men's tuxedos. I might go to ChatGPT and say, you are an e-commerce executive at a made-to-measure menswear retailer that could be described as masculine, adventurous, bold, and high quality. And you would put in your own brand attributes there. And say, I am designing a marketing campaign to encourage my customers, again, you'd enter details around who your target markets are, to buy tuxedos. Come up with five different headlines I can test on my landing page. And, in the span of like 10 seconds of prompting, ChatGPT will come back with a list. And I think the key there is really to iterate. So I'm usually not satisfied with the results that come out the first time, but maybe pick a few. Be like, I like subject line 1 and 3. Come up with variants on those that I can test, or come up with headlines, or come up with content for my landing page that speaks to the following values: affordability, aspirationality, etc. And before you know it, you've got a whole suite of content that you can pick from, and you've basically created a bunch of variants that you can be testing for a long
time. It's that brainstorming exercise, but you're able to do it on your own rather than the classic sticky notes on the wall with a team in a boardroom, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And then as far as like tools inside the program, so we use Unbounce for all of our landing pages. It should not be a surprise to anyone. So there's a few that are really like big time savers for me. I think the biggest two are simple variant creation. So you create your landing page and you're like, oh man, I've got to create a whole other variant to test against it. What am I testing? What changes? What stays the same? So once you've created your control, you just click a button. It creates a whole new version for you. It picks an element that it's going to test a variant of, and all you have to do is enable it and hit publish, and turn on A/B testing. You're ready to go. So what would have nearly doubled your effort to get from like control and variant before just a couple of clicks, and you've got an A/B test set up already. You're good to go.
Yeah.
And then the second one is around smart copies. So essentially, very similar to ChatGPT, but it's in Unbounce. It's being trained as a digital marketing expert, like conversion marketing best practices. So whatever it's spitting out for you, you can get it to update or suggest a variant on your headline, on the written copy, etc. And it gives you ideas on that could be coming from like an expert level digital marketer. So another big time saver for me.
Yeah, it's that overall, it's cool to see the whole overall marketer experience where it's like,
Yeah.
I'm starting with the creative brainstorming, brand ideas, content, that sort of thing, refining that down. You go through your steps as a team to create that. And now it's like, okay, now to overcome that barrier of, I just need to push the button. I need somebody to like give me a kick in the butt to get started on A/B testing. This can kind of get you a little bit further along and then refine that language a little further on too.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Alex. Thank you for those examples. We're going to shift now. I'm sure we have a lot of, I will, as I am one of them, call them data nerds in our audience today. So, and obviously people think a lot about what metrics are we going to be testing? What does a true performance look like? That sort of part of the experience. Can you tell us about your process for selecting key performance indicators when you're thinking about a landing page A/B test?
Yeah, I'll try and keep this fast because I'm a data nerd and I could go on about this all day. You want to start as close to the point of conversion as possible. So if you're selling a product, then that would be how many people bought your product on the variant versus the control. But sometimes, especially if you've got an expensive product or low traffic, it's going to take you too long to get statistically significant results. So then you want to look at something that we call like micro conversions. So maybe you're not looking at how many people bought the product from one variant versus another. Maybe you're looking at how many people added it to cart, or how many people like clicked the description or like clicked through to the product page from your landing page. It might even be how many people gave you their email addresses to get some sort of exclusive offer. So if you're having trouble in terms of you feel like your traffic is too low, or you're selling something that is like a high value purchase and takes a while, what else can you measure that's correlated with conversion?
Yeah, kind of depending on the length of your customer journey, what does that general nurture experience look like before a true conversion? It gives you a lot of different options there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. This is a great one. I know a lot of people asked leading up to this, what's the number one element I should be testing? I'm sure the answer is going to be something related to it depends, but Alex, can you tell us about your process for selecting the landing page elements that you would recommend testing, and just some that you might surprise people in that regard?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So the short answer is you should be testing everything. The long answer is you can basically group things into, there's like written content, there's visual content, and then there's the layout and page elements itself. So generally speaking, I personally tend to test written content first. I think it's usually the fastest to turn around. And oftentimes I'll start with a layout that I'm pretty confident with. So I don't feel like I need to test that overly much until I've really optimized what are people reading when they get onto the page. But the answer is you should test everything. We might have time to get into it later, but we tested like an element on our homepage, on Unbounce's homepage, that actually drove a pretty substantial uptick in click-through rate that I had no idea would work. So basically, forget everything that you think works and don't be afraid to test new things. Like, it should be everything: content, visuals, and layout.
Awesome. Okay. And then with that in mind, when you're thinking about, okay, you've set up, so for your menswear example, you've identified some of those micro conversions you're working on. Yep. You're working on a different headline, testing those against one another. Yep. Now you start getting into interpreting those results. And you mentioned this a little bit earlier. Statistical significance comes up all the time when people are talking about A/B testing. Can you share your perspective on that? Had quite a few questions about it. Generally best practice articles say you need at least 2 weeks. You need a minimum of 5,000 visitors for this to be effective. And for some marketers, depending on ad budget, that might not be a realistic goal.
Yep. So I actually don't spend a lot of time thinking about statistical significance, only because if you're using an A/B testing platform that's worth its salt, it's going to have statistic calculator built into it. If you're not testing a landing page, there are statistical significance calculators you can use online, or if you're super old school, you can crack open your statistics textbooks, which I do not recommend. So generally, I'm focused on how can I get results fast. So if, again, given the amount of traffic that I'm getting, if I see that I'm not advancing quickly enough towards statistical significance, I might scrap the test, or I might change the conversion that I'm measuring so that I've got something that's going to give me results faster. Again, do you want to measure how many people bought an $800 tuxedo, or do you want to measure how many people added it to their cart, or how many people clicked through and like scrolled around on the product page? So it's about picking it really just comes down to like setting the bar as low as possible for a behavior that's linked to purchase.
Yeah. General advice, find the robots that can help you out with this. They should be built in. I know like within Unbounce, that's something that's really helpful, and it gives people a lot of confidence. I think especially for people that are a bit more beginner that might not know the ins and outs of statistical significance really in depth. So I think that's a really helpful one, Alex. Okay. This is just to wrap up like your formal section here, Alex. Not an easy question, but when we're talking about this as a process, really easy for us to talk as a solo marketer. How can I be more effective in my testing? That sort of thing. We're often talking about marketers working as parts of teams. We're talking about multiple people that are resource strapped, very busy in 2024, lots of campaign goals, big objectives, all trying to drive more revenue. So that can be daunting for a team member to push really hard and say, we should test more, we should experiment more. So from you, your position as a leader, and also I think from the individual contributor experience, what tips do you have around creating that culture of experimentation and getting everybody to celebrate that a little bit more?
Absolutely. I mean, this one probably sounds kind of trite, but like you want to be celebrating experimentation, not results. So we want, generally speaking, on a team, of course, results matter, but we want to focus on the fact that like the line to success is not always straightforward. The only way you're going to substantially lift your marketing funnel's performance over time is if you're testing elements. So just really getting the team on board with that and getting everyone super comfortable with the idea that, hey, we know that the majority of A/B tests either fail or don't produce a statistically significant result. I'd say the second thing is you want most of your budget, if you're spending a lot, especially on paid campaigns, you want to channel most of that into what works. And I think that gives you really the confidence to go wild and test. Say like that remaining 10% of your ad budget, just put it towards something that really overemphasizes one of your value props. Test a totally different layout, maybe even like a slightly different branding approach. And that really empowers you to go and test things that you would never be testing in your main marketing funnel while still driving the results that you need to drive for the business.
Awesome. One other that I saw on this, especially doing research and like seeing what some of our customers do here that I really like is the model of like an 80-10-10 test. So 80% of your traffic is going to your evergreen page. That's, high performing. You're really confident with it. And then two other variants are seeing 10 and 10% each of your remaining traffic. It's a cool way to kind of put a concept out there. If you're a really high traffic team, it won't take you long to get to statistical significance running that. But even if you're not, you can still find a few learnings depending on how you measure micro conversions and whatnot out of that too. So
yeah, that's a great tip, actually. That's a really good way of approaching it.
Yeah. And I know people often ask, do I just need to do two variants side by side? And there's some other ways to experiment with it and think about it too. Okay. Awesome, Alex. Thanks so much for sharing some insight and tips with everyone. I'm going to give you a break from the hot seat. We're going to come back to some of the questions that people submitted a little bit later on.
Awesome.
Cool. So next up, I want to introduce going.com and our friend Forrest Schaefer. Forrest, if you're here today, say hi in the chat. He's had some awesome success with A/B testing, and I thought that the lessons that I've heard from Going and seen in their account would be a really great example for us to share today. So a quick intro to Going. Simply put, they're helping people travel the world without breaking the bank. When you sign up for Going, you select your departure airport and your ideal destinations. And when Going identifies discounted flights, you will get up to the minute alerts for those flight deals. Plus, there's a free trial option before committing to a paid plan. Some of the deals are incredible, huge amounts of savings for people. I think of it a lot like a discount travel agent deal hunting for you in the background while you're off going and living your life as normal. And so Going runs a lot of different campaigns across key social and paid search channels for awareness and ultimately with the goal of driving people to sign up for the service. So when Going started up with Unbounce last year, they had a key test in mind. A key conversion for them is what percentage of users are converting from a trial version of the account into a paid user. And from a customer perspective, the first mile is really critical. What is the initial impression of the platform? Is the platform and the marketing all setting the right expectations for first-time users about that trial experience? So they were interested in testing trial for free as their primary CTA language versus more generic terms you might see like sign up, get started, and learn more. So the quick example here, as you can see on version A of their landing page, you see the use of join for free and sign up for free. That's used a little bit more consistently in the subheading and in the CTA, whereas in version B, that's using trial for free consistently in the subheading and in the CTA. It's a pretty simple test overall, like Alex said, focusing on copy first rather than major design changes. Team ran this experiment in the fall of last year. They were measuring results across a ton of different landing page specific metrics, things like click-through rate, bounce rates, that type of thing. But they were also measuring, kind of in their deeper reporting, the percentage of users that were converting from trial to paid based on which of these variants the user encountered when they were signing up. And after the experiment wrapped up, the Going team saw some promising results and decided to make trial for free their default language based on those results. So to leave you in suspense for a moment, in that first full month that the team switched over to using for trial for free, they doubled the percentage of users that were becoming paid customers across multiple channels, looking at that month versus months previously. I was really excited to hear this story. It's a great example of not just a landing page specific outcome, but a really key business outcome being tied to experimentation results. I've heard Forrest say that it's going to have a big impact on how they operate across their entire team, not just within marketing alone. So after this big win, I reached out to Forrest to ask, what's next? How do you top this, obviously, going into 2024? And a new experiment that Going set up to kick off this year is featuring their pricing tiers as part of their landing pages. You can see that in version A versus version B. There's no pricing tier info available. For those familiar with pricing strategy, this comes up a lot. How many tiers of plan should you showcase? Should you be showcasing your pricing at all on your landing page? That sort of thing. So in Forrest's own words, it's a way for us to provide transparency early on in the user journey and ensure a user's first mile eliminates ambiguity where possible. So far, showing product tiers has had a promising effect. As you can see from the landing page screenshot there, their test wraps up today on January 31st. So really looking forward to hearing more about the results. And again, I think this is another great look at the overall experimentation benefits of empathizing with the customer journey by focusing on transparency and also testing that against your key landing page metrics. So we were lucky enough to have Forrest visit us in the Vancouver office a little while ago, and he sat down with our team for a formal interview. And I'm really excited. Just give me 1 second to set this up. Really excited to give everyone a chance to hear from Forrest in his own words about his A/B testing experience.
I'm Forrest. I'm the Senior Manager of Growth at Going.com. My role is really focused on introducing our brand to a user who may have never heard about our brand before, showing them the value, and ultimately getting them to convert and sign up to use our service. The struggle prior to using Unbounce with landing pages, two things: scale as well as measurability. For every test that we want to run, we need 2 landing pages. The bloat that would occur from duplicating every single time and 2 and 2 and 2, it's too much to manage and it gets very messy. So the A/B testing functionality is incredibly important, but my favorite part is that we only get to use one URL. Normally, you might have to build an individual URL for each page that you want to test, but with Unbounce, you can just have one URL, it splits the traffic to each variant, and you can even do more than an A/B test, right? You can do 33, 33, and 33, or whatever you want to do. We've seen successes primarily with our conversion rates, which have increased from doing a number of tests. We've gained a lot of time back that our teams normally would need to dedicate to this. And so that relieves a lot of stress. It reduces the cost that we would need for an engineering team to build this product for us internally. Being able to test with Unbounce uncovered a lot of different learnings. We've run a lot of tests with adding length to the page, adding more copy, images, value props. When we have a hypothesis, we can immediately go out and market and test it. And so it's the go-to solution, in my opinion.
couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Forrest. Also, thank you to our awesome creative team for putting that video together. Alex and I were talking before this. We're continually blown away by the stuff we're able to create when it comes to telling customer stories. Okay. Just as we kind of draw to a close here, I want to share a few key takeaways with everyone. So to start, I want to encourage and recommend people take advantage of your testing data. As Alex mentioned, you can overcome a lot of opinions with strong experimentation. Benchmarking within your industry is critical. Find something that you can reference, whether that's related to your own performance or others in your industry. That can be really helpful. And like Alex said about using ChatGPT, using some of the tools built into tools like Unbounce, leverage the AI that's at your disposal to overcome some of those barriers to experimenting. Also want to recommend people having clear goals, starting with your true conversion, whether that's a sale, a sign up, a form fill, and then working back into earlier in the customer journey. Think about the micro conversions that you can test for depending on your overall customer journey. Those can be really helpful. If you need a place to start, headline, CTA, and then your visuals are really good places to get going. And lastly, I encourage everybody to be ambitious, celebrate the experiments, not just the results. That's how you build a culture of experimentation. Build testing into your campaign planning and be willing to challenge your own assumptions about branding, messaging, and what you think your customers are looking for. I really appreciate everybody joining us today. We're going to finish up with some questions submitted when you signed up for today's session. Alex and I are going to run through these, and I know people might have to drop off throughout just based on kind of getting to that half-hour mark in the day. Like I said, really appreciate you joining us. I'm just going to share a few of the questions that came up in the chat and then highlight those for everybody so that we can see those. This was one of the top ones that Alex and I saw. Alex, I'll just read this out to you as well. Would you consider best converting landing pages, top of your game, industry leading? Would you consider those landing pages solved, or is the meta always changing and we need to constantly A/B test? What are your thoughts on that one?
I think that you need to consider your page solved once you've demonstrated some sort of lift. A helpful way that I think about it is you're either running sort of an open and shut campaign with an end date, or you're running evergreen kind of campaigns that you're going to be refreshing periodically. So at the end of that campaign end date, or you're refreshing your evergreen content, consider that the sort of end date for your landing page. Take that as the new baseline and start testing something else. Otherwise, I think psychologically it can be a bit of a drag to be like, this is never solved. I try and think of it as we learned something, we improved, we got to know our customer better, and now we're taking this as our new baseline. We're going to learn something else.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna fire through a few of these and try and get through as many as we can. Okay. Love to hear more about your approach to iterative A/B testing. If you have a slightly positive but insignificant statistically test results, would you reiterate and retest? Would you abandon? How do you approach your decision making? I think that's kind of the core question here. What's your decision making for those kind of ambiguous results?
Right. So this one gets tricky because as you've seen from, I think, the chat, some of the examples we've shared, sometimes even a really subtle change can have a big difference on your outcome. So you don't necessarily want to shy away from those nuanced tests, but you want to try and be relatively as bold as possible within that. If your first test doesn't work, then maybe try a bolder version of it. And I would say keep in the back of your mind that the majority of A/B tests don't yield a statistically significant result or a negative result. So don't expect every test to be like, I won and I won again and I won again. You might get that at the start, but especially when you're working with a well-optimized page, you're really, you're going to see diminishing margin of returns, and you're going to have to work harder to get that result. Keep testing, get bolder, move your winning variant over to the main core of your marketing funnel, and keep testing wildly off on the side.
Awesome. Okay, I know we're officially at time for our session, but Alex and I decided ahead of this, we have so many awesome questions that we want to keep running with these. So I think Alex and I will stay on for another 5-10 minutes or so.
As many as we can,
Yeah, we'd love to have people hang out with us for a little bit longer if you're able to. This was a great one. Someone who creates new landing pages for a weekly email promotion. Is it worthwhile to A/B test if my landing page will have that limited lifespan? I don't usually get enough hits to have a clear winner in an A/B test by the time an offer expires.
That's a good one. I would say, again, coming back to micro conversions, is there something else that you can test as a conversion that is pretty correlated to your end goal? If not, I would say you might have to move to something a little more asynchronous, as in run something one week, run something slightly different the next. You're not going to be able to do that within sort of an A/B testing like landing page tool, but you can still avail yourself of statistical significance, and you can get kind of an asynchronous result.
Right on. Okay. I'm going to add this one. We talked a lot about sort of some e-commerce examples, so I thought talking about this from a lead gen perspective would be helpful. What do you think has the most impact on lead gen forms? Do you have some B2B specific examples you would share?
Great, super relevant to us too. Generally speaking, on lead gen forms, less is more. So you want to make it super easy. Like think of yourself signing up for something. We've all gone through a credit card application. That's an example of what not to do. And we've all gone through signing into something with our Google account or Facebook account. That's super easy to do. So fewer forms, the better, generally speaking. Make sure that your CTA is delivering what they're going to get. If you're saying talk to sales and they're getting an automated email reply, that's not a good experience. And are you, for example, are they at the right stage of the funnel to be saying, hey, do you want to talk to sales? That might be dampening your conversion rate. If people want to learn more and you're sending them an info package, that might be better received. So think about where are the customers, what's the next step that they're most excited to take, and how do you make it as easy as possible?
Awesome. Yeah, I think form length is the top one that I think of. One that came up that I thought is a really cool example. If you have the functionality to create a multi-step form experience, generally a pretty good best practice, getting somebody started with just their name and then proceeding to giving a little bit more info rather than one really long field. So if you're looking for that really high quality lead with that extended form information, that can be a really good option for you as well. Okay, this one, big philosophical question for you, Alex. If you had to pick one to test, would you choose design or content?
Personally, I always start with content and I end with design. Oftentimes, you're going to find, like, you've got competitors, you've got previous work experience, you've got previous pages. Oftentimes, the design and the elements there are sufficient to get you started. To me, you really want to know what are your customers thinking, and like when they read the words on the page, when they click the CTA button or they convert. So for me, I'm always starting written, and then I am working backwards from there into like graphics, and then into sort of design elements and layout.
Right on. Okay, here's one that I thought was a good one for us to touch on. Often we're talking about paid channels when we're talking about landing pages, but I think there is an A/B testing element to that affects SEO principles. I spoke with our SEO manager here at Unbounce to chat about it really quickly. Pooja, shout out. Thank you for the help with this one. Generally, there's kind of two options when you're getting into A/B testing and how it affects SEO. If you're looking at one URL that's used across all your variants, you need to be very mindful of cloaking, which goes against a lot of best practices and goes against kind of the user agreements you have. The solution for that is to avoid really dramatic differences between variants. Generally, A/B testing is something that's encouraged. You're trying to drive more relevant content for your audience. So Google search functions aren't going to look upon that poorly, but just be mindful of what you can find available for that. And generally similar, you don't want to let tests run way too long, and you want to be really mindful if there is an opportunity where your search engine might see a very different variation of your content versus your actual audience, because that can raise some flags when Google's taking a look at it. Alex, do you have thoughts you want to add there from an SEO perspective?
I think that pretty much summarizes it. If you're making minor sort of, again, content or image-based changes, as long as you're respecting SEO best practices there, then you're not going to have any trouble. When you get into layout and page structure and things, then you want to be more careful.
Right on. Okay. And then I wanted to share this one because we know we have a lot of agency customers who work with Unbounce as well. What are your thoughts around proposing A/B testing, and when do you think that's most valuable to a client? I know it's not a ton different as an independent organization too. So I'd love to hear your thoughts there, Alex.
Yeah, for sure. I think generally when you've got to a point where you've got a high volume of traffic and you're seeing limited incremental gains in conversion rate, that's a natural place to introduce A/B testing. Another natural entry into that conversation, I think, is when you've got a difference of opinion. When it comes down to what customers want to see, what's the messaging, what value props resonate best, what imagery resonates best, what brand identity or elements thereof. And these are all natural entry points into A/B testing, I would say. Yeah.
I spoke to Ale, who's our agency success manager at Unbounce, about this as well. Similar to you, high volume of traffic. If you have a client in that situation, it's a great chance to explore testing options. She also said if they've identified a specific drop point in the landing page experience or somewhere in the customer journey, that's a great spot to explore experimenting. It's a really great way to drive results as well. So that's an awesome one. Okay. This is a very statistics focused question, which we're going to get into a little bit here. Had somebody ask how Unbounce works when it comes to A/B testing. How do you ensure an even rotation of pages, as well as how does statistical significance get calculated? So I dug into this. On the randomness side of it, it is truly a coin flip for every visitor that goes to your URL, because in Unbounce, you only use a single URL. So it is a random distribution each time. You will see slight differences because just like flipping a coin, you might get heads 5 times in a row. So one of your variants might see 5 visitors in a row, but usually it's going to balance out, especially at high traffic. Confidence intervals are determined by a chi-squared test. If anybody wants to brush up on their statistics, let me know, because I dug into this a bit more. Really intensive statistical model that's evaluating your confidence intervals. And one other piece that I think is interesting for this, people asked about how do you ensure that a repeat visitor seeing the same version of the page. There is a tracking cookie that will be specific to each variant within Unbounce to ensure that a visitor on the same device sees the same variant each time if they come back to your page over and over. So pretty specific, but I hope that was helpful for people. I think we might have time for 2 more here, Alex, if that works for you.
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to speak to this first, Alex? What do you see as the difference between A/B testing as it lives in Unbounce and also Smart Traffic, which is another personalization tool within the platform?
So we've talked A/B testing over the past half hour. Smart Traffic, depending on how you think of it, kind of sounds like A/B testing, but it's actually more personalization. So Smart Traffic analyzes a couple of variants that you've created of your page, and then based on some parameters of the traffic visiting your page, whether it could be things like device, time of day, maybe location, it serves them the page that algorithm thinks will be most likely to make them convert. So it's more personalization. And one of the benefits of Smart Traffic is you can get by with a lower volume of traffic to get it calibrated than you might need for a traditional A/B test. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a product where different messaging would work in different markets or across different devices, across different groups of users, this is a really exciting way to just kind of put it on autopilot and make sure that best messaging is getting in front of your best customers.
Yeah, really cool tool. Highly recommend it. I think it can be very beneficial to people with small amounts of traffic who just want to increase results as best as possible. I think it can also work at that really high-end traffic volume, as another option for optimizing overall. Okay, I think this is going to be our last one, Alex, just based on timing today. Thoughts on A/B testing video versus no video content on a landing page?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, video is generally, to me, is kind of the apex of where you want to get to for a complicated product or for a really aspirational brand. I would argue there's nothing better. Generally speaking, I've seen that video improves conversion, but not always. You never know.
Yeah.
I'd also encourage testing video versus video. And of course, if you are testing and a substantial base of your customers visit you from a mobile device, then you want to make sure that this is mobile optimized and they're not getting some big desktop wide video or something that's going to chew up all their bandwidth.
Yeah, that load speed. We were talking about mobile specific experiences, and load speed and user experience is a really great one to test on when you're thinking about that micro conversion experience. I just want to share, if people are interested, I'll put it in the chat here as well. For a long time, Unbounce, by default, recommended video content on landing pages. Our data team dug into this a little while ago and put a really cool blog article together. Something I would recommend testing, because it's not always 100% true. It can vary depending on industry. Like Alex said, for a really complicated product, it can be a really helpful reference for your visitors. But for some, it might be, you just want a really quick experience to get through and sign up or buy or whatever it is. And it might be a little bit overwhelming and affect especially some of those load speed pieces and whatnot tied to the page as well. Okay. Alex, we're going to close out our official time today. I just wanted to give you a chance to share some parting words with everybody for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. It's really exciting to chat with you all, and I see tons of great questions coming through in the chat. what to end with, I feel like we've talked about a lot of the basic principles. Just keep testing. Like, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be bold. As I said, most of these tests aren't going to result in positive, like in positive results or any sort of substantial change. So you need to make it part of your schedule. You need to make it part of your routine. And if you're doing that and you're consistently testing your marketing funnel, you're going to make your job easier. It's that simple.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. I really appreciate it. I know we weren't able to get to everybody's questions today, but like I said, really appreciate the time you all spent with us today. Hope you learned something new. If you have more questions about A/B testing and you're not currently using Unbounce, please check out our blog. Consider reaching out to our sales team. They'd love to talk through the different options with you and how the platform works. If you have technical questions about your A/B testing setup within Unbounce, definitely look through our documentation, reach out to our support team to troubleshoot those things. We'd love to make sure you're getting the most out of your experimentation. And if you're just looking for some more A/B testing tips and tricks about landing pages, I highly recommend posting on the Unbounce community. There's people that hang out there like myself that work at the company. There's people that hang out there that are power users using Unbounce for 10 years. They would love to help you out as well. Like I said, really appreciate all the questions everyone had. I'm sorry we weren't able to get to every single one of them today, but please reach out to us in those different channels. Check out the Unbounce community. That's an awesome place to explore best practices and see what other marketers are doing. And please keep an eye out on your email for a recording of this session. Please feel free to come back and review that later. Share it with your colleagues. We hope you find a lot of value in reviewing this content. And stay tuned for more live sessions with us here at Unbounce. I just want to say thank you to everybody who helped put this session together. Thank you for joining us. And we're really looking forward to bringing you more sessions like this in the future. Bye for now, and we'll talk to you soon.